It was a summer day in 1982. The sun was shining on Sheep's Flat, near Lake Tahoe. A group of hikers made a grim discovery. They found the body of a young woman. She had been killed, but no one knew who she was. The police came quickly. They looked for clues. They took pictures. They tried to find out who the woman was. But they couldn't. She had no ID. No one came forward to claim her. She became known as the Sheep's Flat Jane Doe. The case puzzled everyone. Who was this woman? Why was she in Sheep's Flat? Who had killed her? These questions hung in the air. They would remain unanswered for many years. The Sheep's Flat Jane Doe became a mystery. The community was shocked. People wondered if a killer was among them. The police worked hard. They followed every lead, but each one led nowhere. The case went cold. The Sheep's Flat Jane Doe was buried without a name. Her story was far from over. Years passed. The case of the Sheep's Flat Jane Doe sat on a shelf. Detectives came and went. Each one looked at the file. They all hoped to find something new. But nothing changed. The woman remained nameless. Technology improved. New ways to solve crimes were invented. The police tried these new methods. They ran her fingerprints again. They looked at missing persons reports. Still, no matches were found. It seemed like the case might never be solved. The community didn't forget. Every year, someone would ask about the case. Local newspapers wrote stories. They reminded people about the mystery, but no new information came in. The Sheep's Flat Jane Doe was still a Jane Doe. Decades went by. The 1980s became the 1990s. Then came the 2000s. The case file grew dusty, but inside that file was a secret. It was waiting to be unlocked. The key would come from a place no one expected. Science was about to change everything. In 2018, something big happened. A new kind of science was being used to solve crimes. It was called genetic genealogy. This science uses DNA to find family members. The police decided to try it on the Sheep's Flat Jane Doe case. They took DNA from the Jane Doe. They put it into a special database. This database had DNA from many people. These people were looking for their families. The computer started searching. It looked for people who shared DNA with Jane Doe. Suddenly, there was a match. The DNA was similar to someone in the database. This person was related to Jane Doe. It was a breakthrough. After 36 years, there was hope. The mystery might finally be solved. The police were excited. They worked with genealogists. These experts build family trees. They traced the DNA back through time. They looked at birth records and death certificates. Slowly, a picture began to form. The Jane Doe was about to get her name back. Section 4. Unmasking Mary Silvani, a life revealed. The genealogists kept working. They built a family tree. It led them to a name, Mary Silvani. She was born in 1948 in Detroit. She had been missing for years. No one had reported her missing. It was sad, but now she had her name back. But now, after all these years, people knew her name. Mary Silvani was no longer a Jane Doe. But there was still one big question. Who killed her? Section 5. The Hunt for a Killer. Tracing the culprit. With Mary identified, the focus shifted. Who had killed her? The police used the same method that identified Mary. They put the killer's DNA into the database. They waited for a match. It didn't take long. The DNA led to a man named James Richard Curry. He had died in jail in 1983. He was there for other crimes. Curry had never been a suspect in Mary's case. But now, the evidence was clear. He was Mary's killer. The police looked into Curry's past. He had a long criminal record. He had hurt other people too. But he died before he could be punished for killing Mary. It was a bittersweet discovery. The killer was known, but he couldn't be brought to justice. The case was now solved. Mary had her name back. Her killer was identified. It was more than anyone had hoped for after so many years. The power of science had cracked a decades-old mystery. But the story wasn't over yet. Section 6. Justice at Last, Closure and Reflection. The solving of Mary Silvani's case made news. It showed how powerful new science could be. Cold cases everywhere might now be solved. Families of missing people had new hope. For the detectives, it was a big win. Now they could close the file. They had also found her killer. It was a proud moment for law enforcement. The community felt relief. They could now remember Mary Silvani as a person, not just a Jane Doe. Her story touched many hearts. Mary Silvani's story ended with her name restored.